We are on Yud Ches Aleph.
Okay, that woman follows me around. Okay. Reb Eliezer says, if one did not bring an instrument for circumcision before Shabbos, he should bring it on the Sabbath exposed, and in times of danger, he should cover it in the presence of witnesses. Furthermore, said Reb Eliezer, we may fell trees in order to make charcoal and to form an iron instrument. But Rabbi Akiva stated a rule. Any work that can be done before Shabbos does not override Shabbos, but any work that cannot be done before Shabbos does override Shabbos. We may perform all the necessities of circumcision on Shabbos, and we may circumcise, uncover the corona, draw blood, and place a bandage and cumin upon it. If he did not crush the cumin before Shabbos, he would chew it with his teeth and apply it. If he did not vigorously mix wine and oil before Shabbos, each one should be added to the bowl by itself. We may not fashion a shirt-like bandage for it, and one may not wrap a piece of cloth around it. If he did not prepare it before Shabbos, he may wrap it around his finger and bring it. Is that you or me? And bring it even from another courtyard. We may bathe the infant both prior to the circumcision and following the circumcision, and we may sprinkle water upon him by hand, but not with a utensil. If Elazar ben Azariah says we may bathe the infant on the third day following the circumcision when it occurs on Shabbos, as it is said, and it came to pass on the third day when they were in pain. Okay.
Okay. Karen, there's one more sentence there. Suffolk and androgynous.
Oh, I'm sorry. A questionable one, or androgynin, we may not violate Sabbath on his behalf. And Reb Yehuda, however, permits it in the case of you know what I mean. Okay, I joined.
Androgyne or hermaphrodite. Okay. Misha Yulo Shnei Tinokos Echad Lemul b'Shabbos Achar Shabbos Echad Lemul b'Shabbos. So he had twins, and they were born far enough apart that one was supposed to have his bris on Shabbos, and the other one was supposed to have his bris on Sunday. B'Shachach Umal is Shel Achar Shabbos b'Shabbos, and then he mixed them up, and he did the bris milah on the son who was supposed to get his bris milah on Sunday. So now he's done the bris on the 7th day instead of the 8th. Okay, so now he hasn't actually done a bris milah properly. So therefore he's chayav chatas for violating Shabbos for doing the milah, because the milah is only permitted when you have an 8th day bris. However, echad lemul b'erev Shabbos v'echad lemul b'Shabbos. If you take the same story and make one have to have his bris on Friday and the other one on Shabbos, and instead he did the one on Friday on Shabbos. Shachach umal is shel erev Shabbos b'Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer mechayev chatas for Rabbi Yeshua poter. Because the fact is that if he was due for his bris on Friday and he had it on Shabbos instead, that means it was a 9th day bris, which means it's a valid bris. However, he wasn't allowed to do it on Shabbos, because Shabbos you can only override for an 8th day bris. However, according to Rabbi Yeshua, you'd nonetheless be patur for violating Shabbos on this, because he did nonetheless do the mitzvah. Mm-hmm. And the halacha follows Rabbi Yeshua that he would be patur from a chatas for doing this.
Okay.
Okay. Mishna hey katan nimul mishlishmona letishel asar lechadasar ushnemasar lo pachas v'lo yaser. So you can have a bris bisman, assuming that you don't have any bris that is if the baby is healthy. As long as the baby is healthy, then the correct time for doing the bris of the baby could be any of the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, or even the 12th day. Okay. So normal happy case is where you have the bris on the 8th day. Nolad lebein hashmashos. If however the child is born bein hashmashos, then you can't take the chance that it was actually still on. Let's say we're talking on Sunday to Monday. So if he was born in the evening between Sunday and Monday, then you can't do the bris the following Sunday, because it might be the 7th day and then it's not valid. So therefore you have to do the bris on the Monday, which we're calling over here the 8th day, because maybe he was born on the Sunday. So we're calling that on the 9th day. Bein hashmashos shel erev Shabbos. If he was born bein hashmashos of erev Shabbos, then you can't do him on Shabbos either, because he's now a safek. And therefore, he has to be bris on Sunday. So we push it off from what could have been a Friday bris to a Sunday bris. So therefore, that's the 10th day. Yom Tov le'achar Shabbos. What happens if you have this situation where you have a Yom Tov straight after Shabbos? Okay, nimol lachadasar. Then he has to be brised on Monday on the 11th day. Shnei yamim tovim shel Rosh Hashanah. If you have 2 days of Rosh Hashanah and then Shabbos, as frequently happens, if let's say he's born Ben Hashmashas on Wednesday evening,
right?
Okay, then the bris has to be on Sunday, which is 12 days. Katan achole. Now, what happens if you have a katan who is sick? Ein mo'alim aso ad sheyavri. You cannot do a bris on him until he has become healthy. And I think the halacha generally follows that as soon as the doctor declares him healthy, then you wait 7 days. So
really? Oh,
you don't bris him on unless it's like a question where he's like what would happen, for example, with my grandson, is that he had jaundice up until the 8th day, and on the 8th day, in the morning, they went to measure him and they said, okay, he's just past the safe threshold. So we scrambled and made an afternoon bris. So that was done on the 8th day.
Wow. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem.
Yeah.
Now I didn't have a bris for a long time because I was in the incubator for like I think I don't know 8 weeks, 10 weeks, something like that, because I was really premature. So I don't know. Maybe I'm still waiting. I don't know. Hope not. All right.
Well, you're very mature now, so.
Thank you, Baruch Hashem. Okay.
So now, if the mohel doesn't do a good job, and he doesn't clean up the foreskin that well, so then he has to go back and clean it up even on Shabbos, but only if it's beyond a certain amount that he hasn't cleaned up well. Okay. So the tzitzin hama'akunis amila, so the shreds of foreskin that prevents the completion of a milah, basara chofe es rov ha'atara. So basically, if the foreskin is still extending beyond the majority of the glands at the top of the penis, okay, if that's the case, if he's left that much foreskin on, then he has to go back and cut it off even on Shabbos. Okay, if it was less than that, then he can only clean it up after Shabbos. Okay, and if such a child if that miller wasn't cleaned up properly, then such a child, if he's a kohen, is not allowed to eat truma because he's considered an arel, and an arel is not allowed to eat truma. Okay, im haya bal basar, if it was just like you've got a fat child, and it looks like he's and it just looks like he's got more foreskin than he really has, then you can only fix it for maris ayin, so he shouldn't look like he's an arel, but you also can't do that on Shabbos. Okay. So
right. So then even afterwards, if it's redone and all, he can't eat truma. Is that what you're saying?
No. After it's done properly, then he's not arel anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But if he carries on, but if he doesn't have it fixed up, then he can't eat truma.
Does it affect the avoda?
Yeah, I think an arel can't perform the avoda either, and also you can't eat a korban pesach. An arel can't eat korban pesach.
I'm sorry, that's my alarm telling me I should take my pill. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Mal velo para es hamila ki'ilu lo mal. So there's an active. It's not only mila. There's a priya. There's a membrane which is under the foreskin, which also has to be cut open, and that has to be. And if the mohel fails to do that, it's ki'ilu he didn't do the mila. Okay, so that's just another halacha of mila that we learn while we're in this period learning about mila. Okay, back to Tesvav base.
Tesvav base. We may serve enough food for 3 meals. What is fit for people? What is fit for people may be saved for people. What is fit for animals may be saved for animals. How so? If a fire broke out on Shabbos Eve, we may save only enough food for 3 meals.
Stop. I don't think you're in the right Mishnah here. We're in 15. Tesvav Mishnah base. Not.
Oh, so I'm looking at Test Zion. I'm sorry. I'm looking at Test Zion. Yeah, it was a good mission anyway. There are three knots for which we're not liable as we are for the camel. We are not liable as we are for the camel driver's knot and the sailor's knot. A woman may tie up the opening of her chemise, strings of her hairnet or a girdle, straps of a shoe or a sandal, leather canteens of wine or oil, or a pot of meat. But Eliezer ben Yaakov says we may tie a rope in front of an animal in order to not go out. We may tie a pail with a belt, but not with a rope. But Rebbe Yehuda permits it. Rebbe Yehuda stated a general rule: any knot which is not permanent, we are not liable for. We may fold garments even 4 or 5 times. We may make the beds on the night of Sabbath for the Sabbath, but not on the Sabbath for the night after Shabbos. Reb Ishmael says we may fold garments and make beds on Yom Kippur for the Sabbath, and fats on the Sabbath sacrifices may be offered on Yom Kippur. Reb Akiva says neither those of the Sabbath may offer on Yom Kippur, and nor may those of Yom Kippur be offered on Shabbos. All books of Holy Scripture may be saved from the fire, whether we read from them or whether we do not read from them. Even though they are written in any foreign language, they weren't being hidden away. Now, why do we not read from them? Because of the neglect of the lecture hall. We may say the case of a scroll with the scroll and the case of the tefillin with the tefillin, even though there is money in them. To where may we take them for safety? To a blind alley. Ben Basara says, even to an open alley. Okay. All right.
Back to Shabbos in a minute because we've got only 2 Mishnayos in Bikurim before we do the first Mishnah of Shabbos again.
Okay, what happened is these things got mixed up. Something blew away. Oh, okay. That was test Vav base that we're starting tomorrow. And where did we leave off, Shaul? I don't remember where we left off.
Test Zion. Tomorrow you start with Test Zion base.
Test Zion base. Test Zion base. Okay. This is the one we just did, though. No, tomorrow we save enough people, but before that, the one that we did, the new ones.
Oh, the new one. Sorry, we just finished. Yud Pes Vav. So we're going to start on Kaf Aleph tomorrow.
Okay. Yud Test Vav. That's what we. Yud Test Vav is where we.
That's the last one we finished. Yes.
Right, last one. So all right. So we have. Okay. I got it. My napkin, my tissue blew away. Okay. Okay. We are now in Bikurim.
Bikurim, yeah, Dalad.
How is he like both men and women? One incurs guilt for smiting him and cursing him as with other men and women. And he who slays him unwittingly must go into exile. And if intentionally he is executed, as are men and women, and his mother brings on account of him a sacrifice as for men and women, and he eats holy things in the provinces as men and women, and he inherits all the heritage as do men and women. How is he like neither men or women? Truma is not burnt because of the uncleanliness of his flux, nor is he liable on account of entering the temple. Neither like men or like women, and unlike men or women, he is not sold as a Hebrew servant. He is not valued either as a man or a woman. And if a man says, may I be a Nazarite, and this one be neither a man or woman, he is a Nazarite. But Yossi says an Aphrodite is a creature of its own, and the Chachamim could not decide if he was a man or a woman, but not so a Tumtum, who is sometimes man and sometimes a woman. Okay, Hadran Alach.
Yes, Bikurim, Hadran Alach, Seder Zerayim, and 1 Mishnah at the beginning of Shabbos.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I didn't take it out because that was bet. All right, right over here. Okay. The types of transfers on the Sabbath are 2 which are in reality for within, and 2 which are in reality for outside. How is this so? The poor man is standing outside in the household inside. If the poor man extends his hand inside and placed an object into the householder's hand, or if he took an object from it and brought that object out, the poor man is liable. And the household is exempt. If the householder extended his hand outside and placed an object into the poor man's hand, or if he took an object out of it and brought that object in, the householder is liable and the poor man is exempt. Okay. That's
Isn't there more? Or did you finish it? No, you didn't finish it.
Oh, I'm okay today. If the poor man extended his hand inside, and we did that. Okay. That was the end of it, right? No. Because we didn't do both. If the poor man extended his hand inside and the outside householder took an object from it and placed an object into it, and the poor man brought the object out, both are exempt. But if the householder extended his hand outside and the poor man took an object from it and placed an object into it, and he, the householder, brought that object in, both are exempt.
Okay.
Okay. Now it's
Shabbos. Hey, Aleph.
Okay. If a saw of unclean truma fell into less than 100 of chulin, or into Mises Rishon, or into Mises Sheni, or into hallowed produce, whether unclean or clean, they must be left to rot. If that saw was clean, it must be sold to priests at the price of truma, excluding the value of that saw. If it fell into Mises Rishon, he must designate it as truma Mises. And if it fell into Mises Sheni or a hallowed produce, he must be redeemed. And if that chulin was unclean, it may be eaten in small cakes, or roasted, or kneaded with fruit juice, or divided among pieces of dough, so that in it no single place should be there and eggs bulk. Rabbi Yossi said, a case came once before Rabbi Akiva concerning 50 bundles of vegetables, into which a kindred one had fallen, half of which was truma, and I said in his presence, it's annulled. Not because truma is annulled in 51, but because there were 102 halves. If there were 2 baskets or 2 piles, and a saw of truma fell into one of them, and it is not known into which it fell, they combine to annul it. And Reb Shimon says, even if there are 2 towns, they combine to annul.
I think you lost me, and I think you went backwards again.
Oh, sure. What am I doing to you today?
Go back to Mishna base.
If a saw of unclean truma fell into 100 of clean chulin, Reb Eliezer says truma must be taken and burned, for I say that saw which fell into it is the saw which came up. But the Chachamim say it is nullified and should be eaten in small cakes, or roasted, or kneaded with fruit juice, or divided among pieces of dough, so that in no single place should there be an egg's bulk. A saw of clean truma fell into 100 and of unclean chulin, it is neutralized and should be eaten in small cakes, or roasted, or kneaded with fruit juice, or divided among pieces of dough, so that in no single place should there be an egg's bulk.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really off the bubble today. Okay.
Okay, Poros, test, base.
If he finished harvesting his olives, but intends to purchase more, or if he finished purchasing, he intends to borrow more, or if there befell him a mourning or a banquet or a compelling situation, then even if Zavs or Zavas walk upon them, the tahor. If tamei beverages fell upon them, only the place into which they came into contact with the olives is tamei, and the moisture that seeps to them is tahor. When their processing is finished, they are susceptible to tumah. If beverages fell upon them, they are tamei. The moisture that seeps from them, Reb Eliezer regards it as tahor, while the sages regard it as tamei. Reb Shimon says they did not argue concerning the moisture that seeps from the olives, which is tahor, but concerning what did they argue? Concerning the moisture that comes from the pit, that Reb Eliezer regards as tahor, while the sages regard it as tamei. Okay, one more. One who finished his olives and left over a porous box should place it in the presence of a Kohen. These are the words of Reb Meir. Reb Yehuda says he should bring the key immediately. Reb Shimon says from the time he finishes to the same time the next day.
Okay.
All right.
Then Menachos, Yud Aleph base.
Okay. Both the stei lechem and the lechem hapanim are kneaded and shaped outside the temple courtyard and are baked within it, and they do not override Shabbos. But Yehuda says all the procedures are performed within the courtyard. Reb Shimon says always be accustomed to say that the stei halechem and the stei hapanim are valid both in the courtyard and in Beis Pagi. The chavitim of the Kohen Gadol are kneaded, shaped, and baked within the courtyard, and they override the Sabbath. Their grinding and sifting do not override Shabbos, and Rabbi Akiva stated a rule: any labor which can be done prior to Shabbos does not override the Shabbos, whereas one cannot be done prior to the Shabbos or overrides the Sabbath. You heard that before.
Remember, we just saw this.
We just saw it, right?
We just saw this in Shabbos. We just saw this in Shabbos, right? With Mila. Same thing.
Right.
So it's the same principle that follows over here. And of course, you'll find Rabbi Eliezer will probably disagree with him. Okay.
All mincha offerings are processed in a vessel if prepared within the courtyard, and a process without a vessel is prepared outside the courtyard. How so? The length of each of the stei halechem, and 7 handbreadths are 7 tefachim, and its wide 4 tefachim. But its horns 4 fingers. The length of the lechem hapanim is 10 tefachim. Its width 5, and its horns are 7 fingers. Rabbi Yehuda says, in order that you should not err, Zadad Ya'atz, then Yoma says.
So that it's a mnemonic of the numbers.
Right.
7, 4, 4, 10, 5, 7.
Reb Zomer says, and you shall place upon the table lechem panim before me always, that it should have faces. Okay. What? That's it.
Nazir.
Nazir. Yeah. If one says, I am a Nazir on condition that I could be permitted to drink wine or contract tumah for the dead, he is a Nazir and is prohibited in all of them. If he says, I know that there is Naziris, but I did not know that a Nazir is forbidden wine, he is forbidden. He is forbidden. But Reb Shimon permits him. I know that a Nazir is forbidden wine, but I thought that this common would permit it for me since I cannot live without wine. Or since I bury the dead, he is permitted. But Reb Shimon forbids him. If one says, I'm a Nazir and it is an obligation upon me to provide for a Nazir to shave his head, and his friend heard him and said, and it is an obligation upon me to provide for a Nazir to shave his head. If they are clever, they provide for each other to shave, and if not, they must provide for each other Nazirim to shave. If he says it is an obligation upon me to...
We've done 3.
That was it? Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Tomorrow's no shear, so takes care of that.
Tomorrow and for 2 days Rosh Hashanah no shear. We'll see you again. Once again, Som Gedalia is going to be a late finish, so we'll have to be in touch when we're done.
All right, and I will send. I just did a little bit of time, but I will send it to you. In a little bit, I'll send it to you. Everything I have.
Thank you very much.
I'll even send you the bill. I'll even send you the bill they sent me. So that's
Thanks.
Okay, take care. Be well. Shana tova. Be well.
Bye.